About a fascinating book that's out right now. It's called John Lennon versus the USA.
Well, John Lennon, great performer, right? I think we have a video of him singing, and he was magnificent. America was good to him. He was good to America.
Yeah. Well, he had a hard time, though. At one point, America wanted to get rid of him. They wanted to deport him.
There was a serious effort to deport John Lennon, to send him back home. In fact, though, I'm not sure if it's technically deportation because he was never a U.S. citizen. But it was a major battle, John Lennon essentially versus the government of the United States. Our next guests were in the middle of it all.
Yeah, in fact, Leon Walls, you could see him with the briefcase in front next to John Lennon. He's the immigration attorney who represented John Lennon and Yoko Ono, and he's the author of the new book, John Lennon versus the USA, the inside story of the most bitterly contested and influential deportation case in the United States history. It's a mouthful.
Welcome to you both.
And Leon and his son Michael continues to do immigration law right now.
All right, so why did President Nixon want John Lennon out of the country?
Actually, he wanted him out because he wanted to be reelected. This was 1972, and we had changed the law. Because of the 26th Amendment, you could vote for the first time if you were 18 to 21. And he was afraid he might actually not be reelected.
And he was afraid also because John Lennon was a peace activist, right? The war was going, the Vietnam War was raging, and...
That's right, and he really wanted him out.
So with the voting age at 18, yeah, that John influenced millions of young people to come out and vote against Nixon. That's pretty wild. So how did he come up with an argument to get him out of the country?
Well, what happened at the time was there was a drug conviction that John had in London, and Dad, through an extraordinary process, eventually proved that it was, number one, planted. It had happened to Mick Jagger. Number two, the product that he was arrested for was not what was excluded under U.S. immigration law. And number three, he didn't have the culpability or the mens rea to have intended to have pled guilty, and that would violate sense of due process.
Okay, wait. All right, he did not have the men's what?
He didn't have the intent to, he didn't know the product was there. It was planted in a pair of binoculars.
Okay, but he smoked a lot of pot. Everybody knows that.
Well, we have no comment.
Okay, but the bottom line was this was a 5-year battle that you undertook. And, Mr. Walls, you didn't even know who John Lennon was when they first came to you, right?
That was correct. I had heard about the Beatles, but I couldn't have named any one of them.
In fact, what did you call him?
Well, I thought it was Jack Lemmon, actually.
He came home to my mom, and my mom said, "Who are these bigwigs that kept you out?" He goes, some singer, Jack Lemmon, and his wife, Yoko Ono, from a band called The Bugs.
The Bugs.
And then the next day he had to speak to a cab driver who was a Queens College music graduate to find out who John Lennon was, because he didn't want to go home to my mom without knowing.
Well, we're glad you figured it out, and because it looks like these pictures, you won. I see John Lennon there holding something up a moment ago. It looked like, is that the green card? Was that victory?
Yes, it was. That's what we succeeded after 5 years of fighting the government.
How far up did you have to take it up the chain?
Up to the Court of Appeals here in New York in the Second Circuit. One more step, if the government had appealed it, we would have been before the Supreme Court.
And that, in 1976, right?
Yes.
Ironic a little bit, because 4 years later, he was shot and killed in New York. If he were living in London, it probably wouldn't have happened.
So sad, but the book has great notes from John to Dad, a lot of documents and anecdotes. John was followed, he wrote, in a little note to my father on foot as well as by car. My father had to speak to his father in Yiddish about the case because the FBI was taping conversations.
Wow.
And he was so respectful over our Sabbath, he would never call until afterwards. And they would have to make meetings or clandestine times to see each other because the government was really using and was conspiring for political reasons to get out this icon. And it was really, the book is really the ballad of Dad, John, and Leon, because out of the jurisprudence of this case came what President Obama relied on for the Dreamers. There are 500,000 children now on a program that Dad and John discovered through the Freedom of Information Act, where the government now issues prosecutorial discretion or defers action against people for a greater good. They discovered that by filing cases here. And John wanted Dad to write about this and broadcast this in the years to come.
Because he wanted to help other people who
He was a dreamer. Imagine, he was a dreamer. And because of this case, because of this gentleman, and I'm a lawyer because of the grace of of his hosting our firm. There are 500,000 young kids serving in the military, working as doctors and lawyers and everything because of this case.
Now, meanwhile, I hear Yoko Ono is still very much in contact with you and your family, right?
Yeah, she's lovely. She's a close personal friend. She's given us a score of referrals through the years, and she's always had a great respect for my father's scholarship and friendship.
We know each other for about 45 years now, and she's a very special person.
And I know that you're still very much involved with immigration law. In fact, Michael, you worked on Melania Trump's.
I didn't do Melania's visa or green card, but
so
I represent Trump models
now,
and I've been speaking on their behalf on her immigration matters.
So what can you tell us about that? Because I hear you're a Hillary Clinton supporter.
That's right. Thanks for the clarification.
I know. I just want to make sure. So you're a Hillary Clinton supporter,
That's right.
and you're working for Trump models.
So just rewinding, Dad started this practice 15 years before John and Yoko started coming to the same building where we're located. And we represent a lot of wonderful families, companies, as they bring people here. Trump Models is one of them. They bring in a score of very talented models to the year.
Very talented models. By the way, the commission in the modeling business, not just at Trump Models, I think is like 20%, right? Don't they take a very big cut?
I don't get into the cuts.
What's your area of responsibility there?
So we get the visas for the young ladies and gentlemen to come over to the United States.
Because a lot of them are coming from Eastern Europe.
From other countries. They can't work here, collect the dollar until either an H-1B3 or an O visa has been issued. So the question with Melania was, how did she get here? What was her visa? How did she secure her permanent residence? And all of that has been discussed and is continuing to be discussed.
Is it on the up and up?
Everything's on the up and up. And I have to say this, as a Hillary supporter and still as an advocate for the Trump models, it's a family and a business that really does respect the rule of law, and everything is on the up and up here.
Everything's on the up and up. There we have it. I don't think that's the final word, but good luck to you both. The book looks great.
Yeah, Michael and Leon Wiles. The book is called John Lennon versus the USA.
There's a book warming at Cardozo Law School on September 7th.
A book warming?
Book warming, that's what they call it, a book event.
Yeah, what time?
From 7 to 9. Just go on our website, which is wildslaw.com, and let us know if you want to join us.
Oh, very nice. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you very much.